Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Anchors of Hope. This is episode number 5 here at the podcast Anchors of Hope, where we make every attempt to provide some thoughtful content, staying away from politics or any sort of divisive topics, if you will, and prefer to focus and hone in on opportunities to learn, to be in dialogue, to help every single one of us perhaps live a life that is more consciously driven, a life that is open to the potential that the universe has to offer. Part of which requires us to be present, to be conscious, to remove the barriers of distractions, the screens that block us, prohibiting us from seeing that which is right in front of us. Because opportunity, potential is infinite, if only we are available and open. So I want to talk this episode 5, I want to talk about struggling with purpose. And it has everything to do with this week's Torah portion, Vayishlach. This week's Torah portion in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, Vayishlach. And it actually, for me, is one of my favorite Torah portions, in that it helped me better understand the magic formula, the secret sauce of Am Yisrael. What does it mean to be a member of the people of Israel? It's a question that I had throughout my own journey of Jewish learning and growth. And I found the answer to that question here in this Torah portion. And it's obvious to many of you out there who may have studied this Torah portion, but it may not. And if it is obvious, perhaps it's something we have not thought of enough, or perhaps put into practice to better understand this existential question of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people, who have somehow cracked the code of existentialism throughout history for over 3,500 years. Whereas we have seen empires rise and fall, some of whom have made it their objective to rid the world of the Jew. And yet here we are. Some of those instances of annihilation actually made it to the Jewish calendar as holidays, like Purim and Hanukah, and perhaps October 7th as well. Maybe in 150 years or less, October 7th will end up becoming a holiday. Maybe we fast on this day, perhaps we read a Megillah, maybe we do a Kiddush like we do on other holidays, and then have a big feast and celebrate life. Life over death, light over darkness, because that's what we do. We struggle, we challenge the status quo, we say no to darkness, no to evil, and we overcome. And so the story begins, this Torah portion, with Jacob, one of our the third patriarch, and his brother Esau. If you don't know the story, you should read up on it, what led us to this point in time, part of which has to do with Jacob tricking their father. After all, Esau was Jacob's brother. Jacob tricking their father, Isaac, into receiving the blessing for the birthright, the firstborn blessing. And Esav in Hebrew, Esau finds out and he's angry. And we arrive to this juncture, if you will, where Jacob now knows that Esau is coming for him. Esau is angry. He wants revenge. And so Jacob comes up with this plan of action where he is going to take his families, his wives and children and flock, and he's going to split them into 2 encampments, sending them ahead of him to greet Esav with gifts and blessings, and have himself, Jacob, coming up from the rear, coming up at the end of this parade, if you will, so that perhaps by then Esav will be with his fill, his ego perhaps massaged with gifts and blessings, and perhaps spare Jacob's life. So it's interesting. So he wakes up in the middle of the night, Jacob, in this Torah portion, Vayishlach, and he sends ahead his family, his wives, his children, his flock, and he sends them beyond the river Yabok. And it's interesting because in the Bible and the Torah, we find that water often serves as a transformative experience, a metaphor at times for transformation. Water, that is, the flood waters, right? And we know this also throughout the story of Exodus, where the children of Israel crossed through the Sea of Reeds, right? There's a splitting of the sea, and they walk through and they transform from being the children of Israel to becoming the people of Israel. We also know this in our own rituals with mikvah and in Christianity in baptism. Water transforms. You go in and you come out perhaps cleansed, transformed into something other than what you were. And so prior to crossing the Yabok River, Jacob sends his family ahead, and all of a sudden this Ish shows up. In the Bible, the Torah says an Ish. There's no name. It doesn't say who this person is. It just says Ish. In Hebrew, Ish means man. Now, of course, this person comes out of nowhere, and the commentators of the Torah, of the Bible, and the rabbis and the sages of blessed memory all have a party with this. They have a ball commentating on who this person is, or essence, if it's Jacob's subconscious or the essence of God. Either way, Jacob and this man, this Ish, they start wrestling. Literally start struggling with one another, which is pretty intense, very dramatic. Could make for an awesome Broadway show, perhaps, or a play. They get into this wrestling match, which goes on throughout the night. The dawn is about to come. The sun is going to rise. And this Ish, this essence, grabs on to Jacob and says, now, we're done here. Let me go. And Jacob says, I know who you are. You're not just any random person. I want you to bless me. And this Ish, this essence, says to Jacob, Jacob, your name shall no longer be Jacob. You shall be called Israel. The abbreviation that the next verse in the story gives for Israel, Israel means, Ki sarita im Elohim ve'im anashim v'tochal. For you have struggled with humanity, with God and humanity. Sarita im Elohim ve'im anashim. For you have struggled with God and humanity, and you have succeeded. Thus your name shall be called Israel, and by extension we are the children of Israel, the people of Israel, the nation, the state of Israel. For we struggle with God and with humanity, and we overcome. And what does it mean? What does it mean to struggle with God and humanity? Jewish identity, as we know it to this day, living Jewishly doesn't simply mean, hey, I'm Jewish. It means doing Jewish things. Living accordingly to our tradition and culture, to our values. You don't just inherit it, although you kind of do, but you got to live it. You discover your identity, your connection with past and present. You discover, you reveal what it means to be a member of this eternal people, Am HaNetzach, through encountering, through engaging, through asking questions, through wrestling, through struggling with issues and topics. And it runs throughout everything we have experienced and learned about across the millennia, across 3,500 years of life. Whether it is Israelite practice, whether it is rabbinic Judaism, you turn open a page of Talmud or in the Mishnah or any sort of rabbinic text, and you'll find that there are questions and answers sought. You find this in modern Zionism as well, where over the decades, others in every generation that approaches wonders and asks itself, what does it mean to be a Zionist today? Now we have the land, we've returned home. Is Zionism still the reclamation of the land, or is it Aliyah, or is it just supporting Israel from afar? And the truth emerges not from theorizing or intellectualizing. It emerges from engaging. It emerges through engaging with real world challenges. Our way of life, our structure of Jewish law, our values, our approach to what is happening around us doesn't exist within a vacuum of particularism as it regards Jewish life and experiences. It is part and parcel, or runs parallel to human history, universalism. And so Jacob becomes Israel through the actual struggle, and we can see that pattern throughout history. As I mentioned, the children of Israel become the people of Israel at Sinai, receiving the covenant. And the people of Israel became the nation through exile and a return. And the nation becomes the state of Israel, overcoming persecution, resistance, pioneering, innovation, thinking outside of the box. Each of these instances requiring wrestling in a struggle which results in a transformation of consciousness, of presence of mind, of who we are in this world. And that brings us to this day and time, of course, following October 7th, which changed not just anything, but a lot. We are ourselves at this Jabbok River moment. We are at that moment prior to crossing the river, where we too are wrestling with questions that do not have easy answers. The brutal attacks, the invasion of southern Israel, the global response that minimized Jewish suffering, the resurgence of Jew hatred, anti-Semitism, all of which shattered assumptions about Jewish security, acceptance, normalization in the world. But like Jacob's match, this struggle isn't merely destructive, it is potentially transformative. It forces us to grapple with what it means to be Jewish today. How do we maintain hope while acknowledging the challenges that we face? How do we balance Jewish particularism with universal values? And through this wrestling, through these questions that we ask, we begin to produce new insights. If early Zionist thoughts believed and had a vision of a utopia, whereas the sovereignty, the freedom, the independence of the Jewish people would rid the world of the Jewish problem, we know that the utopia has yet to be realized. Though we have entered the global community of nations, Israel having diplomatic relations worldwide, contributing to science and culture and medicine and agriculture and you name it, we're there. We still know that there are challenges to overcome. And that's where we find ourselves today. So where do we go from here? Well, my hope is that we collectively awaken as a people, that we focus on what binds us rather than what separates us. This requires a fundamental shift from a people defined by exile to a people capable of global leadership. Moving forward requires us letting go of the past but not forgetting it, being willing to move forward from it but maintaining it. We are part and parcel of the globalized citizenship, the global community of nations. Perhaps that means that today we bridge the particular and the universal. Perhaps we are global Zionist citizenship. We are global Zionist citizens, no longer scattered in exile, a nation among nations. And we need to see ourselves through the particular as well as through that global prism, that universal prism. We must maintain that balance to Jewish commitment while continuing to contribute to human flourishing. That is our role in this world. We are partners with the divine. As we read in Hallel during the beginning of the new months and during Hanukah and other times of the year, we read the Hallel and we say, "Hashamayim shamayim la'Adonai, v'ha'aretz natan livnei Adam." The heavens are for God, are for the divine, and the earth, the land, was given to humanity. Our role is to be partners in this world that we live in, down here in the world of below. And so the biblical match perhaps ends at dawn, the biblical match of Jacob and God's essence. And there comes a moment when transformation must be acknowledged and lived. Friends out there, if you're listening, our dawn moment is coming. The outlines are already visible. Global Jewish citizenship, or global Zionist citizenship, for me it's one and the same, transcends boundaries while maintaining deep commitments to Am Yisrael, the global Jewish people, and the state of Israel. Mature Zionism evolves from liberation movement to governing philosophy, from integrating Jewish life that does not need to compartmentalize identity. And of course, the transformation that we take place, that we experience, is part and parcel of our historical journey. Throughout every generation, there's a transformation that takes place, whether it was 77 years ago, following the greatest tragedy, not only of the Jewish people, of human history, with 6 million of our people slaughtered, coming to experience sovereignty, Jewish sovereignty here in the land of Israel, ridding the land of colonialism, Zionism being the decolonialist movement. So as inheritors of Jacob's legacy, we bear both privilege and responsibility. And this means, of course, embracing difficult questions, understanding that Jewish identity is not just a possession to preserve, but a calling to fulfill through engagement with each generation's challenges. Jewish survival depends not only on physical security, but also on moral integrity, not just on solidarity, but on global contributions, not only on remembering the past, but on building the future. And so, the dawn that ends each wrestling match brings not final resolution, but renewed commitment to the ongoing work of being Israel, the people who struggle and prevail not through avoiding challenges, but through wrestling with them until transformation occurs and blessings emerge. We find answers to difficult questions. The wrestling continues to this day, and in its continuation lies both the challenge and the promise of Jewish life in the 21st century. Friends out there, better days aren't merely ahead, better days are here. And it's on us to peel away at the boundaries, the barriers of distractions, so that we can appreciate the blessings we have to this day and overcome the challenges that await us. Slogans mean nothing. Never again means nothing unless it's lived. So does Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai, it's not just a slogan, it's a way of life. I want to thank everyone out there for joining me on this Anchors of Hope, episode 5, and appreciate you for following me. Consider sharing this with others. Join me next week, and until then, sending you love and light from Israel. Am Yisrael Chai.